Alright everyone, welcome to Street City Studio. I'm John of Asgard, and in today's video we're going to talk about my glorious purpose. We're going to get into, today's video, we're going to get into the best figures I got from Marvel Universe, or Marvel. But Marvel Universe pretty much. But my favorite figures that I've gotten this year in the Marvel category, and I think there's going to be a long list of honorable mentions here, and I kind of want to knock some of them out so they don't eat up a lot of screen time here. But right, we could talk all day about the Sentinel. This Marvel Universe Sentinel is definitely the figure of the year. I know it's not the figure, it wasn't put out this year, but I just got it. And it is by far the most impressive figure I've gotten this year. Look at the size of that thing. And I could probably make some more videos just talking about this thing, and I probably will eventually. But I don't want to spend the whole video just talking about this guy, because I probably can. But there's some other honorable mentions I wanted to knock out before we get too far too. Right? There's a good handful of figures I've gotten recently that I would definitely consider, right, in my top 10 or so. But the problem being is I already had these figures. Right? I had this guy for a couple years ago until I turned him into a custom, right? I had this guy up until just recently, and I lost him. Right? So I don't want to spend too much time on these guys, but they are at the top of my list. But also, I didn't want to spend much time on MCU-related figures, because I kind of consider them very separate and distinct from the Marvel Universe comic book or cartoon-based figures, right? I don't consider these the same. And they kind of are. They really kind of are, because they are Marvel characters, and they are 3 3/4 figures. But I kind of consider my live-action figures separate. So in the honorable mention of them, though, I wanted to mention, oh, it's going to fall right out of his hand, but the Tesseract. I have been it's not even on camera there. Hold on. There we go. Right? I have been sorely missing the Tesseract. I had the Red Skull, but somewhere along the way I lost his Tesseract. So I just recently got the Tesseract back, or a new Tesseract for my Red Skull, right, from my brother's fodder that he gave me. He happened to have a Tesseract in there. So that's pretty sweet, but I don't want to really spend, like I said, that's live action stuff, I guess. But having that out of the way, I think we can just jump right into some of these figures, right? Oh, no, I do have one last honorable mention, I guess. And I don't even know if this counts, right? But I've had this Punisher for a long time. Probably 1.5 2 years or something. And I recently got this Punisher out of my brother's fodder and stuff. Fodder and figures, right? And so this Punisher, it depends on the day. Sometimes I feel like I prefer this design, but I think usually this one is just more classic, right? So while I wasn't really hurting for a Punisher, I needed a classic Punisher. So he's definitely, if not at the top on the list, he's an honorable mention. I wanted to include him, right? And I think from here on out, though, there's going to be no particular order exactly. I just kind of pull them out as I go and talk about them as I go. But I don't know that aside from the Sentinel, I don't know that I have a favorite. I can't really say this is number 1 and this is number 2 and this is number 3, right? But I can say these guys are at the top of the list. These guys are definitely figures I'm happy to be able to, ooh, this shield falling off, have on my shelf, right? And this one I didn't really feel like I was missing because I have the movie version and they're very comparable for me. But once I got it in hand, I definitely started to appreciate some of the differences. Right, it's a lot less futuristic sci-fi armor, right, and more wood and leather looking, kind of more traditional kind of gladiator looking armor, less sci-fi movie, right? And even his skin's real textured, like he's cut up or something, maybe like he's been through some fights, whereas this one's real smooth skin. And I definitely, like I said, up close and in hand, I didn't realize how much I needed that one, I think, until I got it in hand. So he's at the top of the list. And now I just recently got a couple others that I want to drop in here, right? As figures I kind of never thought I'd get a clear vision because he used to be real expensive. And I only recently learned that there was some sort of issue with knockoffs flooding the market, and so people didn't know if it was authentic or a knockoff, and that's why he lost a lot of the value. But I don't mind. As far as I can tell, it's pretty authentic. It came with the stand. I didn't check the number on the stand, but like I said, I bought them loose and cheap. But I never thought I'd have a clear vision, and once I got it in hand and got some close-ups of him, let me pull him in close here so you can see what I'm saying. All right, that two-tone on his face there. If we can get it to focus. There we go. See how it's split kind of down the middle. It's like clear on one side and red on the other. And green on top. Right, up on top there. There's a lot more colors than I was expecting for a clear or translucent figure, you know? Looks nice up close. Just like this one. I didn't know until I got it in hand, I guess. And on that note, another figure I just recently got and never thought I would have is not going to stand up good, of course. But the Taskmaster Archangel, right? Came with the different head and the different wings, the closed wing piece. I'm not even sure what you would call that exactly. But his closed wing piece. And now that piece is so cool. But technically, I have a custom one that my brother had made around here somewhere, because my brother was a big fan of this piece, but didn't want to have to hunt this figure down or whatever, pay the extra buku bucks for him. But it's very nice to have. I don't know that that mask is my favorite design, but it really does have a striking look. kind of want to pull out my other Archangel figure. He's kind of behind a bunch of guys. It's a tight fit in there right now. But these two, Vision and the Death's Mask Archangel, are kind of figures I never thought I would get. I thought that was something I just have to accept, right? Move on. So, I'm real happy to have those. And I think kind of keeping with that translucent figure, right? I don't know what it is about a translucent figure, but these translucent figures really get me. Right? That Wonder Man's a nice looking figure. And even, right, we got this Iceman and I've got the other clear Iceman. But that purple really pops, man. That's definitely one of my favorite figures just because of how it looks. And I'm not gonna lie. I am not a big Wonder Man fan. I'm aware that his personality was used to make Vision and all that, but I never really got into him. I was never the biggest Wonder Man fan. I always thought his little rocket packs, the way that's not even a jetpack, right? That's a weird little belt thing. I never understood that, right? And especially once he could do this, once he could transform and stuff, why do you even still have that? Why do you still have that little jetpack booster when you're made of pure energy, right? But all that aside, I'm a big fan of this figure. I don't know that I'll ever go looking for the non-translucent version too, right? That's how much I'm not a fan of Wonder Man. If I see it at the right price, I'll definitely pick it up, but I'm not going looking for it, right? This one's all I needed for him. Let me look. That might be it for the translucent. Actually, there are a couple with some translucent accessories we could mention just because of that. Alright, that'd be a nice segue. Mandarin. You might have heard me say it before. I still want the green and gold version, but the red and gold version here's he's gonna fall over. There we go. The red and gold version here, it's nothing to shake a stick at. It's really cool looking. And I'm a big fan of this sword. I'm a big fan of how they pulled off this helmet. This helmet is perfect. I think Star Wars could really learn a thing or two from these guys on making a thin helmet that fits real firm, snug and tight, right? It's firm, it doesn't fall off, it doesn't have to be jammed on to get it on. That's a perfect helmet, man. It fits perfect, it goes on and off perfect. When it's on there, it fits so perfectly around his face. When I first got my hands on it, I didn't even think the helmet came off. I thought it was just molded or glued because it's so tight of a fit, right? It wasn't until I saw the hair sticking out of the back here, and I was like, wow, look at that. Is that a separate piece? And I gave it a pull, and it came right off. I was like, that's a separate piece, look at that. So that helmet's really well done. It really is. And that figure's well done. That flaming sword looks good, right? Especially you get some light in it. Get the light behind it in the right way and it lights up just right. Oh man, that's perfect. Now this one I'm including just because of the translucent pieces, and only because of the translucent pieces. This Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel here. These translucent flame pieces are probably some of the best flame pieces in these Marvel Universe figure line. Just because it's not that silly little flame piece that came with almost everybody else. Right? This looks like something like her fists ignited in some fire. Right? I like these. I like these a lot better than those. I wish I should have pulled out an example somewhere. You know what? Hold on. I know. Right here. Right? This flame piece. I'm not a big fan of this flame piece. And they used it for lots of characters and figures. And I kind of like it for Psylocke. I understand Psylocke has to have that pointy knife shape, right? But even these, look at these. If you'd have done that in purple, that would have been an even better Psy knife, right? Either of those. And I'm pretty sure her hands ain't so dissimilar. Right? She's got the same open hand right there, right? With the two last fingers curled in just a bit. Yeah. It's like the exact same hand. Right? Let's see. Yeah. See, it lines up perfect. If they would have cast that in purple instead, I would have preferred that over this one. Probably by a country mile. So, I like back to this figure though. This figure is not exactly anything special. It's not my favorite character or figure otherwise, but because of those flame effects, cosmic Captain Marvel power effects, she's definitely included just for that, right? Alright. Moving on. I think Hope version of Cable, right? A version of Cable that comes with Hope. Now, I had this Cable for a long time, but I had the version with just the X plate and not the Hope. So it's pretty exciting to have the Hope version of Cable finally. Oh, his gun's falling off. Oh well. Put him back here maybe. Start moving some people. But that Cable's definitely high on my list just because of that Hope. I was pretty excited about that. Oh, moving on. I probably could have included this one in the used to haves, but I think I sold him off a long time ago, so he doesn't quite count. I'm real happy to have this one in. I got this one, Iron Spider-Man. I had, actually, I think it was, the figure was mine, but the arms came from my brother's fodder recently. I think that's what it was. I had lost the arms or sold. I don't remember exact details on everything every time. But I got some 4 Waldo arms again. So I'm super excited to have a complete Iron Spider. That is definitely on the list as important. Move on to a Moon Knight, who is equally important, right? And I've been thinking about getting that other version too, the more armored, the heavy armor version. But man, he just doesn't have wrists and stuff, right? It's that Infinite series or whatever. Although, I might just cave and say who cares, right? Still looks good. And definitely, I have some Infinite Series figures that I'm not mad that I have. I'm happy to have them, so. Who's next? Oh, we'll go with some villains. Right? Well, I don't know if he's always a villain, but I always think of him as a villain, especially in his costume. Right? Hyperion. And I don't have the red version. I don't really care for the red version too much. I really prefer this costume. That's a good look. And he's a big figure too. He's real bulky and thick. Look like he'd squash just about anybody, right? And even like you put him next to Cable even. Let me show you. Put him next to Cable even. Cable's quite a big figure, right? He still kind of looks pretty thick, right? Especially in the neck. Things like his wrists and ankles. It looks thicker. His forearms are a little bigger. He just looks a little bigger. Definitely looks like he could go toe-to-toe with the Hulk if he has to. He's comparable to other big figures. Like Hercules. Because that's a pretty massive figure. And he still holds his own against someone bigger. Because that Hercules definitely is. Next up is Kang. This figure's not exactly anything too fancy. Nothing super spectacular to write home about. But it's very faithful, very accurate looking. And very sinister looking. Right? Let's see if we can get a zoom on that face. No, you don't want to zoom on the face. There we go. There we go. Right? You got a real mean look. It's a good looking Kang. It looks like Kang. It presents everything it needs to present. They even introduced a separate piece. Right? That's real good for any customizers want some fodder. Right? I could think of a good handful of uses for that collar. Right? If I had more of them. But definitely don't want to take apart my Kang. I'm keeping Kang intact. But we'll move on. We got some more villains here. A figure that I always intended to get and just kind of never got around to until recently with my brother's donation figures. Thank you again. Silver Samurai. I'm a big fan of samurai stuff and Silver Samurai specifically. Right? His feud with Wolverine, all that stuff. His running, the hand ninjas, and all of that. It's all good stuff, man. He's a good character. He's a solid character. He can play on the good guy's side sometimes. He can play on the bad guy's side sometimes. I like Samurai. He's a good character. Could have done him a little better in the movie, maybe, but I understand. Not all of these movies are perfect. But carrying on, we'll wrap these villains up. We got Taskmaster. Now, Taskmaster's real high on my. I'm gonna have to start pulling some guys back or something. But Taskmaster's real high on my list. I'm a big Taskmaster fan. I liked Taskmaster even in the Black Widow movie. I know a lot of people didn't like the mute version, right? Nobody wants a mute Taskmaster, but nobody wants 1,000 Deadpool clones either. And sometimes that's a thin line to walk, right? You don't just want to copy what everybody else is doing or whatever's successful. Or even, you know, just like Namor and Aquaman, right? Sometimes you don't want to look like you're doing the same thing, right? You don't want to call it Atlantis or whatever just because somebody else is doing Atlantis right now. Alright, he's not going to stand. But, I'm just saying, I'm a big fan of Taskmaster. I always like the costume and his power set. Right? I like the idea that he can just photographic memory your skill set, right, and copy it. Just watch you fight for a minute and just process it and copy it. I like that. I wish they would have focused on it a little better, but they did get, we did get a peek at it. We did get some implications that that's what's going on, right? I'm hoping they flesh it out a little better because obviously we're going to see some more of Taskmaster in with the Thunderbolts or whatever. But I think my last villain would be Dr. Doom here. Right? This is a figure that I was sorely missing. Just like some of these other villains, I knew I needed a Dr. Doom. And I did have a custom movie Doom that I was using for a long time that I had made up out of, I think it was a Future Foundation Doom figure in the white cloak and stuff. But I really did always planned on picking up a more classic, traditional. And now, I don't know what I prefer. I know there's a couple versions of this. There's obviously the white Future Foundation version. There's the this version, right? But there's a one with darker, more muted greens, right? And I kind of like that one, but I don't know if I like the brighter green or the darker greens, the more muted greens of the other figure that I don't have. I may get that one eventually just to see them next to each other, right? But I think that about does it for my villains here, unless we're gonna count Adam Warlock. And I really don't count Adam Warlock as a villain, but I know sometimes that's how he gets spun, right? As the opposition. Not necessarily evil, but the opponent anyways, right? Nonetheless, he is the opponent sometimes. Right? But this is an amazing figure. I love this figure with his little removable gauntlet there. His little staff. This is a great figure. It just looks great. It's not missing anything that I can think of. Right. That's definitely I would probably say my top 5, maybe even. We're in the final stretch here, though. We got one that, again, I think I used to have it a long time ago. I had this figure. I probably sold it to pay some bills or whatever. But my brother just had all of him. He was in some pieces too. I think I had to search around. I think his legs were off or something. But I had to find the helmet, and as soon as I started seeing that it was all there, I was like, oh, he's getting put back together. Yes, he is. Because that's one of my favorite Captain America figures. I really like the removable helmet. I really like the pistol in the holster over here. Right? Oh, I'm knocking Kang down. Get out of here, Kang. Bothering me. Just the whole look of it, though. the old school shield, the shield-shaped shield. I don't know what you would call that. But it's not a frisbee. But that's just that's a real world feeling design. That was one of the first realistic Captain America designs I was ever introduced to. Right? When I first saw this design, I thought, man, that's what they need to do in the movies. And I think that's kind of what it was. It was a precursor, right? It just got slightly better and better. Well, that first Avengers movie isn't the best suit, but you guys will get what I'm saying. They did get better and better until they were at a point where, right, they were definitely comparable to this, I think. I think this is our last figure. But I just got this guy in the other day. And this is probably my favorite Captain Britain so far. This is the classic design. But not just that, he's massive. Right? Give me a second here. I got these other two. I got this more armored version, and you can see he barely comes over his neck, right? He's like comes up to his chin. So he's like a good head above him, right? I got this one, and he's the exact same size as this one pretty much, maybe a tiny bit shorter even. Put him back to back here. Yeah, see? Maybe just a tiny bit shorter. But so, that's the Captain Britain to have, I think, right? Look at him. Even his colors, right? That blue is real kind of soft. It's not as dark and solid. It's more pastel, I guess. He might need a little dusting. I haven't dusted him yet. I didn't think he needed it, but now that I'm in super good light, I should have. That's all right. I'll get to him before he goes on the shelf permanently, right? Give him a little wipe down. But he is, man. He's just so big. Kind of like, right? Like I said for Hyperion. A big figure's nice sometimes. Especially a character like Captain Britain. And even the more I look at him, let me get him out of there so we can... Right, the more I look at... let me bring him back in, because that helmet's a little bulky. But this one, look how big he's got that superhero chin like the Tick, right? That's just more... That feels right. That feels like Captain Britain. I mean, these do too. But that's the beauty of Captain Britain, right? I can call it a Captain Britain core. Right? I can have as many Captain Britons as I can get. Put them all on the same shelf. And that's not weird or nothing. Right? And you can even, right? I seen they had Psylocke as Captain Britain recently in the comics, right? So she's got a Britain costume. You could put anybody in there. Any kind of customs I want to do down the line, maybe. But I'm definitely happy to have this figure finally. Because I've had this one for a while. I had him for a while. I think I sold him, and I got this one for my brother's stuff recently, or I can't remember. I'm losing track. Too many figures, but super happy to have this one finally, because that's just more Captain Britain feeling. It's more accurate. And the size, man, that's so impressive, right? You put him next to like even Captain America here, it kind of makes this Captain Britain look smaller, right? But that one makes him look small. Alright. I think that's going to wrap us up, though. That's probably... that's the last figure. Making sure before I call it. But, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. If you want to check me out on Facebook, follow me on Facebook at John Wayna. That's Wayna. If you want to check out my toy photography on Instagram, that's Street City Toys, not Street City Studio like the channel here. But otherwise, I appreciate you guys coming by. You enjoy your weekend. It's Friday. Have a good weekend. Keep playing with them toys, and I'll talk to you again soon.